Well, they closed down the mill and they closed down the mine. They said you can't work but pay your taxes on time. Got 3 little babies gonna starve to death or freeze. We started making white lightning, it was Grandpa's recipe. Run, rebel, run to nowhere. Run, rebel, run to the Scott County Jail.
Hey everyone, happy Thursday night. You are watching the Jailhouse Informant video podcast live, and I'm your host tonight. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone can hear me okay. So we're excited to be back again on a Thursday night. Chris is not going to be able to join us tonight because she is doing a guided ghost hunt over at the Village of Historic Rugby tonight, and so she's over there getting everything ready for that. We've opened up our tours on Thursday nights at the jail and at Rugby, so sometimes we don't know if we're going to end up having a booking until that evening. Sometimes we don't know until about 4 or 5 o'clock that evening. So we've had to cancel the show a couple times, but we're really grateful to be here tonight. Hello to everyone over here that's joining us. We had a great show last week. We did a discussion on the paranormal and AI, artificial intelligence, and some of the ways that it's been being used. It was a very interesting discussion. I know a lot of you in the chat room joined in on that, and I loved seeing the opinions, loved having the discussions. So we're going to try to do some more of those in the future, but we're very excited tonight because we have an interview that we were able to record a couple weeks ago with Portia Louder. If you have not heard Portia Louder's story, then you are absolutely in for a treat. She has this amazing story of her really how she hit rock bottom and how she ended up becoming really an inspiration and being able to rise back. And she puts out amazing content. So if you don't follow her, I definitely suggest you go and check out her pages, Portia Louder on YouTube, as well as on TikTok. And you're going to be glad you did because she puts out some great content. Before we get to the interview, the interview is pre-recorded. However, I'll be over here in the chat room and typing and answering different questions and such. But before we get to that, just want to say this past week, we celebrated, or not so much celebrated, but remembered the 100th anniversary of Sheriff Richard Ellis's murder that took place there in front of the jail. There was a little small impromptu not so much ceremony, but gathering there in front of the jail with our local sheriff, as well as J.H. Gason, who is a family member of Sheriff Richard Ellis. But we had a impromptu gathering there on the anniversary, as well as we did a live investigation there. So I know a lot of the folks tuned in that night, and it was a very active night. But we're not really going to get into that so much tonight because we want to get into the interview. But I do want to thank everyone that watched the investigation and tuned in. So we'll talk about that at a later time. Let's see. I see your comment, Bob. I actually saw that. That was kind of weird. It just sort of came and hovered. I I'll definitely go back and watch that. But that was interesting. I actually saw that on the screen myself. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and get to tonight's interview. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put those over in the chat room. But definitely go check out Portia Louder's page, and I hope that you all enjoy the interview. Well, thank you so much, Miss Portia, for taking the time this morning to come on and share your story and talk to us about some of your experiences there in prison and jail.
Yeah, absolutely. I am grateful and excited for the opportunity. You guys have a really neat thing going in Tennessee. So
we're trying to keep busy around this historic jail, but we found you just by watching some of your YouTube videos and really became fascinated with your story and your history, and you seem very open about your past. So for those in the audience who don't really know you yet, could you just kind of tell us a little bit about who you are and your backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Portia Louder, and I live in Utah, and I grew up on the outskirts of a small town in Utah. And my parents were pretty non-traditional. You could almost say we lived off the grid, so to speak. My mom liked all things natural, healthy. She was this super hippie kind of creative lady. And my dad was a Vietnam vet, and he was really liked structure. So they were very different, both hard workers. And I remember having a lot of fun as a kid, just playing out in the country, really, for hours. Like we had animals, and we would build forts and jump off roofs and float down rivers, like that kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And my dad had a regular job. He got up early to take care of the animals and a side job. And then my mom was a photographer, and my mom wrote plays and just really creative. I think as the oldest of those 7 kids, one of the emotions that I felt was frustration because it was so chaotic and kind of became adultified, I guess. That's so what people say. And I joke about becoming a gang leader at a young age. I don't know if that's prepared me for my experiences later, but I really started to struggle with any kind of structure or rules or boundaries by the time I was 13. I decided that what boys thought of me was the most important thing, and I was needing that attention. I've even had people say, "Oh, you were looking for a partner, a husband already, because you were already thinking you were an adult," But I did. I was dating boys that were, 16 and 17 when I was 13 years old. So
wow.
Now that I work with youth that are that age, it just seems crazy to me, right? That they were so much older. But my teenage years were pretty difficult. And I ended up pregnant by the time I was 17 for the first time. And I moved out of my parents' home. I really didn't see myself having much of a future other than I was going to be a mom. Like, not that that isn't important,
Right.
But I mean, that's what I saw my mother do, but I didn't see myself ever having a career or a job or anything. I just thought, well, this is my first child. I just need to find somebody to marry me. I mean, if I can just get married, that should solve this problem, right? Yeah. And so, I met someone that was much older. He was 10 years older than me. And his offer to me was, "Hey, Portia, you should marry me because I can take care of you." So it was really romantic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice proposal.
Yeah. Well, that was actually, I thought, a pretty good offer. So I took it and we got married. It wasn't going great. We didn't hardly know each other. And my parents moved shortly after I got married to Salt Lake City in Utah. That's the big city. Mm-hmm. And I had never been there. Like my life had been very small. I'd never been on an airplane, never really left the town. And so I came up to visit my parents with my son. I remember just driving up seemed a little overwhelming. And when I saw the city for the first time, it really struck me that there was like a whole life outside of this town. Like, man, there's something else out here, My uncle owned a photography studio, and I thought I could get a job working. And so I went and told him that's what I wanted to do. And he just said, "Well, I'm never leaving this town. Why don't we just get divorced and you can go live with your parents?"
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So the commitment wasn't very firm there. And we got divorced. I moved to Salt Lake. I lived with my parents, and I found out I was pregnant shortly after I got to Salt Lake. So my second child, I was 20 years old. I called my ex-husband. He said he didn't want to be a part of my life. And I was very lonely. It was a really sad time for me. I remember I was working and my dad made some suggestions. Like, he knows I'm stubborn. I am so stubborn. He's never going to tell me what to do, but he's like, maybe you should try some of these other things. And part of it is my parents were Christian and they were like, hey, maybe you should look down that path. And I was pretty resistant to that at that point. But I do remember I started to read the scriptures at night just as a form of comfort. And it did provide that. When my daughter was born, my dad wanted to give her a blessing at the church. So I said, okay, sure. We went to the church. I look around. Everybody's there's happy. They're all married. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I just need to get married. If I just get married, everything will It's always been my thinking. And so I started dating again and I ended up getting pregnant again. And this was probably the first time in my life that I've ever felt scared, which should have happened long before then. But because I had 2 children, I was 23, no child support, no father for my children. I'm living with my parents and I knew like my kids deserve better. Like I can't keep bringing children into this world and not give them a father and a life. So I remember I said a prayer and I felt this strong impression that I should place my son for adoption. And it wasn't, it was like a strength I hadn't felt in my life before. And, my mom is just this, she doesn't want anybody to have to suffer. So when I told her, she said, why don't you let me raise him? My dad said, Portia, you're strong enough to do this. I know you are. And I remember looking at my mom and saying, Mom, we're not even that good at raising kids. Like, we're not that good at it, And my mom is like, I understand. Like, I just felt like everything was falling apart. I mean, my mom had 7 kids, so I still have brothers and sisters she's trying to take care of. I have 2 kids and I'm pregnant with my 3rd. And it just felt so overwhelming and daunting for me and for my children. I just looked at my little children and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't keep doing this. I ended up meeting a wonderful couple. They were so excited to adopt my son. They were with me through the whole pregnancy. I told my kids, I'm like, they can't have children. Mom's doing this for them. And I remember the day my son was born, it was pretty cool because the lawyer kind of told us we couldn't really be in touch, but we were, and they were there the day he was born. So they got to watch me have him and be there, and hold him. It was really special. As soon as they walked out of the room, I felt a level of emptiness I had never felt. Like I didn't understand it. Like they didn't talk about trauma or therapy or anything. Like I wasn't getting counseling through any of this, And I just thought, I'll just go back to work. I'll be okay. I'll just go back to work. And that emptiness didn't leave. There was like a hole inside me. And at first the doctor had prescribed narcotic pain pills. That seemed to help. And I was looking for more of those. And basically I just became addicted to drugs. Like it was like my way to numb out. And my life got a lot worse. Anyone out there that's had that experience. I ended up losing my job. I ended up, I couldn't hardly even look at my kids anymore. Like I just felt so much guilt and shame. I left. I was gone all the time. My parents were taking care of my kids. I think my parents were trying to figure out, like, do we just take custody of the kids? What do we do? And my dad was so frustrated. He would try to talk to me and he couldn't get anywhere with me. And I remember coming home late one night and my mother was standing there with my son, my 8-year-old son, and he had been crying for hours waiting for me. I walked in. Yeah, it was like my mom looked at me and she goes, Portia, all this little boy cares about is you. And if that's not enough for you, like whatever would be. And I remember going downstairs and laying on the floor and begging God to take it from me. It was just like, I can't do it anymore. I can't live like this. I can't keep hurting my kids. I give up, And my son, he's always been the sweetest kid. He just came over and he goes, Mom, I love you. Why are you so sad, Mom? And I said, Jace, I'm so ugly. I'm such an ugly person. He goes, no, Mom, you're so beautiful. Come look in the mirror. Mom, look at you. You're so yeah, it was so sweet. And I knew that night I would go to any length to change my life, And I went upstairs the next morning and I said, hey, Dad, I need help. I don't know what to do. And he goes, well, I give up. I've tried everything. you might want to go talk to, it's a bishop in our church. It's like a pastor, across the street. He's like, go talk to him. So I went over and I knocked on his door and I just said, hey, I'm Cliff's daughter. I'm a drug addict. I need help.
Oh, wow.
Really simple. And it was such a great thing because he opened the door right up and he said, what can I do? He called a friend that was in recovery who came and shared his story. He made me some promises. He was very honest with me about my situation. He's like, you're very selfish. I can help you, but here's kind of the path forward. I learned to be grateful for people that will tell you the truth when you're in those situations.
Yes, absolutely.
Because he cared about me enough. He was in my corner, but he was also honest so that I could see the path. And it was really hard. I remember thinking it would be the hardest thing I ever had to do, but I got sober. Like, it was one day at a time. It was meetings. It was all the things. And I remember 6 months later feeling so free. Like, I felt really good about myself. I'm looking at my kids. I'm like, one day at a time, you just show up for your kids. You just keep your word. And now the thing is, I wasn't looking for a relationship because I already knew I wasn't any good at picking those. I've already tried that. But I think this is kind of how God works in your life. When you just start doing the right thing yourself, things show up for you. Like, when I was trying to figure it out on my own, I couldn't get there, but I ended up meeting my husband, and he's kind of amazing. He's so sweet. He's just, we've been married for 28 years. And I remember the first time I saw Chad and I just thought he was so kind and good. I wish that my life were different. Somehow I tricked him into marrying me. I always joke about that. I was like, oh my goodness. It's funny because when we were dating, we went with this family on a trip, and I'm pretty much a daredevil. So I climbed up to this top cliff and did a backflip off of it into the lake.
Oh my gosh.
Like, that was it. He's like, my husband was just like, wow.
Good for you.
Yeah. So, but we fell in love, and he got married. He adopted my children. This is like the beautiful part, right? Because I knew the difference. I'd been in some dark places. And so we just started building this life. And I had these teenage kids. I started my own photography company. My life was very busy. And then I did what I always do. And I had 2 more kids. Really fast. That's what I do. They were 18 months apart. I've tried one time. When we had Jackson, I tried. The rest of the time, the kids show up when they're ready. So. Doesn't matter. I love it when somebody says, don't you know about birth control? I'm like, don't you think I've tried a few of those?
It's been in my life, but obviously God has other plans.
Yeah, it's not like you think. But this was a really busy time for me. My photography company went from I grew to 200 weddings a year. Like, this is,
Wow.
Yeah. I had employees. I'm doing photo shoots from morning to night. I was just really working so hard. And when I had Jackson, I decided I had to get a nanny to kind of help at home because I was working from home. And then I decided, well, I've basically taken over the home with a studio. So I'm going to build a house and put the studio in the basement. And I had Sadie, our second one. And then my back went out and I had back surgery. And I ended up relapsing on prescription drugs. And this is something that I've learned the hard way. Like, for me, when I take one pill, it changes everything. Like, I cannot take narcotics. They make me feel like I'm the best version of myself when I take them, but I'm not.
Wow.
I don't know how to explain it other than that. Like, when you're using drugs, you think, oh, this is the best me, but it changes my thinking and my connection to God is what it does. And, so I started to use prescription drugs again. I felt like, oh, I'm okay because I'm not on street drugs. I'm not, you know what I mean? And we built a new home and the market was just going crazy. And I felt very overwhelmed with my photography business. And I thought, well, my parents had always bought and sold real estate, not like big time, but we would buy a house and they would build it up and then we'd sell it and then we'd move to a new house. And so I thought, well, I'll build a spec home and I'll sell it. And then if I do that a few times, I can pay off my house and I won't have to work so hard. It was kind of a good plan, except that it wasn't. So because I'm aggressive, and especially when I'm using pain pills, like I get more aggressive. And so I ended up getting involved in some real estate deals that were called equity deals. I remember the first time someone showed me one, I thought, oh, that's crazy. I would never do that. And it's basically buying a home and getting a loan for a lot more than it's worth.
Mhm.
You know, you use an appraisal that's higher than what it's worth. Now, at this time, the market was moving so fast, there were comps in different areas that you could get the appraisal, and the banks were comfortable giving the loans because they were selling their paper too. And so, but at first I felt it, like, if I'm being honest, I felt it. I was like, this isn't a good idea. But I was locked into some of these other deals that were costing me so much money and interest that I decided I would do one of these to help cover the costs. And then pretty soon I'm just kind of wrapped up in them.
Gets easier.
Yeah, it gets easier, right? And I tell people that, I'm like, your conscience will tell you what to do and not to do, but if you don't listen to it, you'll just keep going down the path, and it'll get worse, you know?
Justify it.
Oh, for sure. And that's what I did. I found all kinds of reasons. And I remember hearing I was under federal investigation. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants, it was just the worst. First, I was just like, people are just talking crap. That's not true, you know? And because I'm still closing deals and I'm at the title company and I'm still kind of keeping everything afloat. But then the FBI showed up at our house.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh. Wow.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants the FBI to show up.
No.
Feeling. It was so awful. I remember I'm standing there with now I had another baby, and she was 3 months old, my youngest child. And I remember the FBI just basically said, we're going to indict you and you're going to end up going to prison. And we looked at my husband and said, if you stand by her, we could charge you on a conspiracy. Like, you got to figure out what you're going to do. It was just devastating. So scary. I remember I had talked to an attorney. I got another attorney, and my different attorneys would say different things. Oh, you didn't do anything wrong. Another attorney, oh, you're in big trouble. Another attorney's like, well, I don't think you're that important. Just ignore it. It'll go away. I'm like, the FBI.
Wow.
I was like, it's not just going to go away, you know?
Yeah.
So we just spent every dime we had fighting, like paying attorneys, and downsized and went to a townhome, and just anything we had, retirement or anything, I'm fighting, which I look back and I'm like, if I could have just said, okay, so I made these mistakes, how can I make it right? Like, that would have been a different outcome for me. I think that it would have been different, a lot different, but I didn't. It actually dragged on for several years. The investigation did. They finally indicted me in 2011, and they superseded the indictment, and then they included my husband in the indictment. So now both of us are facing prison time, and we have 3 young children at home, 2 older children. It was such an awful time. I think that was worse than prison, really, for me. So I continued to fight. I think I learned, you know, when you make a mistake, own it as fast as you can, because denying it makes it way worse. So I just kept on making excuses. Well, the banks did everything wrong, and these people, why are you coming after me? And then by the time I walked into a federal courthouse to be sentenced, it was 2015, and I'd made everybody mad because it had dragged on so long. And at this point, I remember walking into the courthouse that day. If anyone has ever been involved with the justice system, that your listeners, like, it is the most sterile, shocking experience, because they literally hold your fate in their hands. And I remember walking in and going, the United States of America versus Portia Louder. Like, I felt so, it's like a surreal feeling, like my whole country's against me. It's just a very hard and painful experience. And I remember looking at my husband and children and thinking, it's going to be a long time until this is okay. Like, I am so sorry. It was just breathtaking. Like, I couldn't believe that we were there. And the judge gave me the opportunity. At this point, I am facing 0 to 7 years in federal prison. And the judge says, you know, Ms. Louder, do you have anything you want to say? And I said, well, yeah, I guess I just want to say how sorry I am, you know. He said, all right, well, I'm sentencing you to 84 months in federal prison.
Wow.
The maximum sentence. And he said, mother again someday, Miss Louder. And I remember going, huh? Like, I looked at my lawyer and I said, he can't take that from me, can he? Like, it was like, like, it was just such an odd feeling to feel so low. And then I was like, but wait, I don't think he can do that. Like, he might be able to separate me from my children, but I'll always be their mother. But then maybe he can. It was so confusing for me. And I remember that I turned around and my husband stood up, and he was crying. He was just
Oh.
really had to control himself. And he said, the judge had asked the marshals to take me into custody. And he said, please don't do that. He said, please give her time to say goodbye to her kids, you know? And what I knew then was I knew that Chad and I would walk this path together. I knew that God was with us. Like I knew that we would get through it. And the judge ended up giving me 8 weeks to say goodbye to my children.
Okay.
Okay.
It was a total blessing. Also a very painful 8 weeks.
Of course.
We walked out of the prison or out of the courthouse, and our older children took our younger children home. And I just remember driving home with Chad, and I couldn't even speak. I was speechless. It was just like, I couldn't even believe it. Just the weight of it was a lot, you know? And when we got home, I remember watching myself on the 10 o'clock news. I mean, it was, and I just thought, the next morning I got up and I wrote on Facebook, and I just said, yesterday I was sentenced to the maximum sentence that they could give me in federal prison, 7 years. I will be leaving to go to Oakland, California to prison in 8 weeks. Wow. Anyone out there that's willing to support my children and husband, please show them compassion and mercy while I'm gone. Wow. And it was just like, I have nothing left, no pride, no anything. I just want you to take care of my family. We were so fortunate because people did, like they reached out and said, like our principal of our school and counselors, and they were just like, what can we do they talked to our kids, but it was still very difficult for children, for us. I remember watching my kids sleep and driving my son to school and just being so shocked that I had been so foolish to trade something as important as time with my children, you know? And 8 weeks later, I said goodbye to my kids, and my husband drove me 14 hours to a prison in California. And I remember when I walked into the prison, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like the courtroom experience, and there's nothing like walking into prison. You know, there's a grief and loss that takes place in these types of situations, but it's a different one because I've lost family and I know what that's like, you know. It is, you are cut off from everything you love, but they're just out there. Like, it's like, they're just out there. Like, if I could just get to them. And I would just see my little girl's face. She was 7. My youngest daughter was 7. I mean, they sentenced me to as many years in prison as she had been alive. You know, it just, all I could do is see her face, her little tangles in her hair. I couldn't imagine how I was going to survive. They put me in an A&O cell, which is an orientation cell. And I couldn't get out of bed for days. Like, I was so brokenhearted. I couldn't. And right away, the women were very kind. Like, one of them kept saying, if you don't go leave the cell, they're going to put you in a really bad place. Like, they're going to put you in a suicide cell, or they're going to put you where it's going to be worse for you. Like, we need to help you. You need to get something to eat. And I said, I can't talk to you. I need you to go away. Like, I can't even, I was just too brokenhearted. And I remember getting on my knees and I said the most important prayer I've ever said in my life. Like, I remember feeling as broken as I've ever felt. And I just said, God, I feel like I am in the deepest hole and I've failed everyone in my life and I see no hope. I can't see my way out of this. I just need to know who I am to you. And I remember feeling the most incredible amount of love I've ever felt in my life.
Oh, wow.
A complete knowing of who I am and that I have an important purpose on this earth. And it was like, I waited my whole life to know who I was. And here I am in my weakest state and a complete knowing who I am. And I could see that not just me, but everyone in that prison was so loved and valued beyond anything I could ever comprehend. And I would do it all again just to know that, like, because we know who we are and why we're on this earth, no matter what condition or situation we're in, we can do it. We can do it because we are fighting to be that person. And that is what happened for me. It was the most painful experience of my life, and it was the most beautiful experience of my life. And I spent a year in Oakland. Then I was transferred, and I ended up going to the SHU, which is segregation.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wait a second. I am here for real estate fraud. I filled out some paperwork. You know, would like chain and shackle me and put me in an isolation cell. I ended up getting, this was because I was blogging about the prison. I am a little bit of a stubborn person, you know. They told me, if you do that, it's not going to be good for you. And I was like, you can let me out if you don't like it.
Wow.
They're like, no, we're actually going to put you in the shoe and we'll ship you somewhere else. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I was still really mad when I first got there. But it was interesting in the shoe because like you're in a kind of a dog kennel size cell, and it's very like at first you start to panic. I have claustrophobia. I don't like to be in little tiny spaces. Again, for me, like prayer, and then also being able to really like make a schedule and just focus on my own thoughts. Like because I didn't know when they were going to let me out. I didn't know when they were going to feed me. I like control in my life. So to get some control, I just made a list. I'm like, okay, you're up at 6 a.m. You take a shower. There's a little shower in there. Then you pace back and forth. Then you do sit-ups. Then you read your scriptures. Then you eat lunch. Then you go out for a walk. Like as soon as I made the schedule, then I felt better.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I did that. There were a lot of people in the shoe that were kind of banging against things and yelling. That's disorienting. They have the lights on all day, so that's and night. So that's
Oh my God.
you don't know what time it is, night or day. You can't see outside. But I would wrap something around my head so that it would take the lights out, you know, and then the girls would start sliding these notes up and down the halls through this little slit in the floor. They'd take strings from their clothes and they'd spend hours ping-ponging these notes till they went in. I was like, you're so creative. How interesting. They ended up, the marshals came, they chained me to this other girl that was in there. Her name was Diamond. And I remember Diamond had never been on a plane. So they drive us over to a landing strip and the U.S. Marshals show up. And the Fed plane is a lot like Con Air. It's a great big plane. And these marshals are all got their shotguns and stuff. And Diamond's never been on a plane in her life. And she starts, and I said, "You believe in God? We could say a prayer." And she goes, "No, I gave up on God a long time ago." I said, "Good thing he didn't give up on you." You know, and I said, "I'll pray for both of us." We're like chained and chuckling. I have to shimmy up these steps. And we get up in the plane and they've got a bunch of men in the back and they're loud and rowdy and yelling. And the marshals are telling them to shut up. And I sit down and the girl next to me goes, "Don't eat their food. It'll make you sick. And they won't let you use the bathroom on this plane." And I'm just like, thanks for telling me, you know. It was just a very traumatizing experience, honestly. You just wouldn't realize this stuff goes on all over the country. You just don't know until you go through it, right? I'd never been involved in the justice system. And so then I got transferred to Nevada. Again, they get you off, put you on a bus, transfer you out to a detention center. You sit for hours in these holding cells. And by the time I got into the great big detention area, that I was there for 3 weeks. I didn't know when I was leaving again. Like none of this, you don't know where you're going. You don't know when you'll get there. It's kind of scary. And I ended up getting transferred again to a county jail in Oklahoma, Grady County Jail. That was really scary because sometimes, well, you guys are at a county jail, these backwoods county jails, you probably know, like there's a lot that goes on in those places. And when I walked in, I was like, oh, this is not okay. Like I got to keep my mouth shut and just let things. And the girl that was chained next to me, she started screaming. She's like, "We're feds. You can't treat us like this." I was like, unchain her from me. Like, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut, you know, because they're tasing someone in the room next door. Like, I'm not interested in being tased. Like, you know, they ended up unchaining her and putting her in an isolation cell. So I was like, "Bye, Diamond, you're on your own." Like, sorry, I love you and all, but like, I got to take care of me here.
Of course.
You know, every man for himself. So they took me to a kind of a general population area, and I was there for a few days. They came back and picked us up. Now this was interesting because when they picked us back up on the bus, there were just me and another girl in the front and a whole bunch of guys. And the guys were rowdy. Men can be unruly when they're in the bus. They're yelling at the marshals. There's like a graded kind of a gate thing that separates the cops from us. And I'm like, well, what about me? Like, I'm here in the front, the guys are in the back. I mean, they are kind of chained and shackled together, but finally I had just had enough. And I turned around and I said, "Knock it off. I just want to talk to me. You need to be respectful. That's not going to work. And they all,
Good for you.
we can have a conversation, but not like this. When I got done speaking to them, the cop said, "Thank you. That went really well."
Good for you.
They were great. We had a good conversation. They were like asking questions about women's prisons, and I asked them about them. And I remember pulling up to the plane, and it was like the sun was coming up, and it's in Oklahoma. And I just remember this feeling of awe, because when you've been locked up and in cells, all of a sudden nature, all of us were just standing there, and the grandeur of the sun coming up, we just went silent. It was like so beautiful, you know. And then they put us back on a plane, and they ended up transferring me to Minnesota. And I remember getting off and getting on the bus, and we drove out a long ways, because the prison in Minnesota is in Waseca. It's kind of a small town. And we were going through these cornfields. I just remember I was crying, because I thought, I'm so far away from my family. This is not good. Like, I'm so far away. But when we got to Waseca, the prison's pretty nice there, actually, as far as prisons go. Like, they had grass and stuff. And I was like, oh, great. You know, and I love that prison, because that is where, I mean, I had a tree at that prison, and I spent 6 months under the tree crying.
Oh,
it's like sacred ground to me, because I really, really was able to connect again to my higher power, and so much healing took place for me. And I got to know the women, and I was there for 3 years. I really only got a visit from my family about once a year because of the expense.
right.
That was so hard. Watching my kids grow up without me was so hard. And I, you know, by the middle of my sentence, I got to a place where I realized, if I don't take complete ownership of this, I'm always going to feel imprisoned. Like, I cannot be so angry at the government and my judge. And I did this to myself. That's a painful process, and it's not easy to get there. 2 things helped me. One, I was looking around at all the other people that were in there on white collar charges, and I thought, we sit here all day long talking about how smart we are, you know, and we're all in prison. Okay. And then I watched the girls that came in with nothing, that a lot of them were very poor. Their families had been justice involved, and they didn't seem to have that problem. They were like, yeah, I'm here because I was a drug dealer. That's what happens to people that deal drugs. They go to prison. And for me, it was like, oh, I need to find what they have. Like, what they have is humility, you know, and I want what they have. So I started spending more time with people that were in there like that. And I got to know them, and I was like, I have so much to learn from you, you know? And it was really cool, because I got to this place where one of my friends agreed to go with me down to the rec yard, and I just laid it all out for her. And I said, this is what I did, and this is what I did. And I hurt the people I love. And by just saying it out loud, it freed me. It really did. It gave me this freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And then my soul kind of opened up, and I started connecting with women in such a beautiful way. I heard their stories, and I felt so much freedom. By the end of my sentence, I was scared to leave prison. I honestly thought, I feel so free. And I really liked myself. Like, I remember looking in the mirror and feeling so good about myself. And by the time they called my name, you know, because you wait a long time to hear that.
I'm sure.
5 years, they had transferred me back to California. And I remember when they called my name, Louder, I walked out and I had this box, and I felt like the richest woman on the planet. You know, I had and all it was letters and things that I had from these women that I'd met. And when I walked out of the prison, they all came out cheering for me. We love you, Miss Louder. We love you. And it was seriously probably one of the fullest days and experiences for me. You know, how exciting that I had become who I was, and then to go back out into the world. It was like this grand adventure. And my husband was waiting for me with flowers, which was really neat. You know? So there's been so many things that have happened since, and we can talk more about it, but I do remember being very overwhelmed, excited and nervous. And when I got out of prison, I've had, you know, the son I placed for adoption reached out and wanted to get to know me. So we've been building this relationship, which is beautiful.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So many things have happened. I mean, I've been home from prison now for 6 years. My life is more beautiful and more fulfilling than it ever was before. Mm-hmm. And I would hope anyone watching would just know, like, whatever you're going through, man, when you're in the middle, it's really hard to see, but there is so much beauty on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that's a lot. I just shared that's a lot. I'm sorry.
No, I'm riveted.
No.
I'm absolutely riveted. I mean, obviously the tragic part of it, but your resilience through all of this. It's just an amazing testimony to be able to share all of that. And as you're speaking, I'm visualizing the other women who probably don't have your strength, and are facing what you had to face, but not coming at it with almost a positive attitude, to see a change in your life. And I think that would be horrifying to be in that situation if you don't have the strength and fortitude to come out of it like you did.
It's difficult because what I realized is I was very fortunate. I had a supportive husband. I mean, the girls in prison, they would say, "Can you call Chad and ask him what's going on?" Like all of us, he was like our guy. I was very fortunate to have a husband so supportive. And I met women that really did come from nothing, that the families that had been justice involved. But what I found is there are such amazing women in prison. Like they really are fighting the battles to become the best version of themselves. And I know what we see on TV, all these crazy prison shows and stuff, and there's some nonsense that goes on just like there is out here. But I have friends that have come home and done such beautiful things with their lives. And that drove me. I was like, this story needs to be told,
Yes.
This story needs to be told. And it is difficult for the women that didn't have the same kind of support. But I think that prison, even though a lot of people think prison's a bad thing, but it's a rest from the world. It takes you away from the drugs and the phones and the chaos, and it's a moment to breathe. And I think I wouldn't undo prisons. I wouldn't take away prisons. Like, it gave me a chance to grow up. I was a young girl when I got pregnant. For the first time in my life, I was just taking care of me, and it gave me a chance to have the structure and boundaries in place that I could learn safety and how to kind of allow myself to grow up. And I think that's the case for a lot of the women in prison. So.
Well, I've got a quick question about the transfer process. You said that you didn't know. So was it essentially like you woke up on a Monday and they said, "Okay, we're moving you out of here"? And
it was essentially like they called me into the office and said, "Hey, Louder." And then they said, "Put your hands out." And they put handcuffs and shackles on me. Like, I didn't know why I was going to the lieutenant. They called me to the lieutenant's office often at the Dublin prison because I was blogging, and they would read the blogs and then call me over and complain. And I was like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. It's my right to do it, Yeah. But people laugh about that. They're like, "You really did that?" I go, "Yeah." So, but eventually, and I told my husband, I go, "They're going to lock me up. They're going to ship me." And he's like, "No, for blogging?" I go, "Yep, watch and see." So the next day they called me over, and they just said, "All right, we're taking you to the SHU." And they chained me and shackled me and walked me over to the SHU, which is on the compound. It's just the jail within the jail. And then the lieutenant came in and he goes, "I'm getting you out of here as quick as I can." I said, "Okay." So, but they didn't tell me where or when or anything. So you just don't know. I mean, they can kind of do that when you're in prison. Like, they can take you wherever they want and leave you there as long as they want.
And then my second part of that is what that must have done to your family, because is your husband now having to try to track you down?
Oh, yeah, it's devastating for the families. Like, he actually was super concerned, so because all of a sudden he's not hearing from me. I can't call him. I can't anything. I think the way that the girls do that is when someone goes to the SHU, your bunkie will try to reach out to your husband because we leave our numbers with our people. And so she's like, "Yeah, she went to the SHU." And he's like, "Oh, no." So he literally got a plane ticket and flew out to Oakland, which we couldn't afford. Our daughter just told me recently, she goes, "I paid for it because Dad was so broke, but I was so worried about you, And he came out and just to find out what was going on. And they actually let me, for visiting, come over and visit with him. And then he knew I was okay, at least. But he's like, "What's going on? What comes next?" We just didn't know. When I would get to different transfer centers, I could call and say, "I guess I'm in Oklahoma now." Like, I don't even know where I am, but I don't know where I'm going next. Yeah. And then when I finally got to Wasika, that's we didn't know where I was going until I got there. So.
And then my third part about that question is, when you're at your first location, you've obviously formed relationships, and I don't know if you call it hierarchies or whatever, but when you move to the next one, you have to start that process all over again, correct?
Yeah. And then you get all your people. It's the saddest thing. Like, because I was just ripped out of that population. And I was really, I've been there for a year. I know people, my roommate, everybody's so worried about me. And then you just go to a brand new prison, and I just missed all the girls, and I was so sad. And I was like, when will I see them again? I didn't get to say goodbye, What was kind of cool is recently they closed that prison down. I flew back to Oakland to testify against the prison. And there was a whole bunch of my girls there. I was like, I haven't seen you since I left. Here you are. It was really cool that we could do that, right? And on Facebook, we can connect. But it was sad for me. Like, I left Wasika when they sent me to the camp on much different terms because I knew I was leaving. And so I got to say goodbye to everybody. But when they just put you in the shoe and ship you, you don't get to say goodbye. And there's that feeling of disconnect that because I left my family. I already went through that. And now you're my family. Like I'm building these relationships. And then you just rip me out of that. And it's very traumatic. It really is. So
yeah, that's kind of where I was headed with that question. It's just like, I can imagine you've already gone through this and now you're having to, again, rebuild these connections. And now are there any, do you still stay in touch with some of the ladies that are?
Yeah, I do. When I got to Wasika, I think that was part of the thing. My heart was so broken. It was like a double broken because the girls and then my family, and I just cried and cried and cried. Like, I think I needed to. I just needed to detox all the pain, But on what's really, for me, I wrote a book when I got home, and it was like me, like connecting with every person I met on my journey. It's a lot of their stories. And I sent it into prisons. It's available now on prison tablets across the country. So I get messages all the time, not just from the people I met when I was in prison, but like I just had a guy on TikTok reach out and he goes, I read and watched all your stuff in prison and now I'm finding you out here. And I love it so much because it's like, who knew I would do any of that? Like I came home from prison, I went to work in drug treatment, I started writing a book. It's God in my life. Like I wasn't a writer before I went to prison, none of that. But then all of this stuff came about. And it's given me a reach and a way to connect to people in this experience that's been so beautiful. So,
yeah. And to hear you talk, just telling your story right here about what your mindset was when you were younger, not feeling like you really had a purpose. And then now to look on the other side and just see how many people you've touched and how great of a purpose you have through your testimony. It's really, to me, it's chilling. And it's such a beautiful thing. Just to hear just this transition from the start of our conversation to now, to just see how big, and how many people you've touched.
Oh, thank you. I love that you said that because I can look back at myself as a young girl and have a lot of compassion for myself and think, don't you give up. You have an important purpose on this earth. And that's what I tell every kiddo I talk to in detention. I'm like, you don't even know what's coming for you, But I never could have imagined my life would be this. I had no idea. It just gave me the chills that you said that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, like Chris said, I mean, I just happened to come across, some of your short videos. And I was just like sitting there, just watching every one of them that I could. And I mean, you're so well-spoken. And I mean, you can really see like how you utilize that time in there to grow and become the person that you are. Has your strength and your relationship with God always been as strong as it was? I know you said you came from a religious family, but is that something that you relied on a whole lot while you were there in your time?
It wasn't, I think that when I was in my 20s and I struggled with addiction, I never would have climbed out of that. It was my faith in God. Before that, I didn't have that. And that I was very weak, but that is what gave me the strength to get sober. And I think that experience and going through that helped me so much in prison because I knew who to turn to. And if you've been to prison, you will know there is a special relationship. I mean, where would Jesus be? He went to prisons. Where's he going to spend his time? There is a spirit in prison that is so beautiful that I love to go back. It's the feeling I've heard, oh, Jesus walks the walls, the halls of prison. And I say, oh yeah, there is something there, this connection to our higher power. And the thing that I loved about it was that we all came from different religions, right? Like we had all different faiths, but we were connected in such a deep way. Like I tell people, nobody in prison has a faith crisis because we all know we have nothing to turn to except our higher power. Like, you know what I mean? Like faith crisis is reserved for people that have a lot more. Like we had to climb a ladder to get to a faith crisis. We are so low that we just turn to each other. And I loved that religion didn't divide us at all. Spirituality connected us. No matter what we believed, we would all pray together in our different ways, but we would circle up when somebody was struggling. Like we'd hear somebody had a loss on the outside, and we'd all come together and just wrap our arms around them and pray. And it was beautiful. So,
Now, when you got transferred to the county jail, you said it was so much different. So one, how long were you there? And then what were those differences?
Yeah. So I had an experience with the county jail that was totally awful before I even went to prison, because I had been on pretrial release for a long time, and as I was leading up to I planned to go to trial. As I was leading up to that, the weight and the fear of everything, like all our kids will be without parents. But the plea deals at this point, I'm trying to work a deal where my husband is not charged and he doesn't have a felony, so he can work and take care of the kids. And then I'll take the deal and go to prison, but they weren't cooperating. And I said, fine, I'll go to prison, or I'll go to trial, and I will fall on the sword in trial. And I will find, I was just fighting. And I remember Chad and I were at the federal courthouse in Salt Lake City and for a hearing. And this is very unusual, but in the courtroom next to ours, the U.S. Marshal shot a guy actually several times, and it killed him. And he stood up, he was a gang member, and it was his first day of trial. And he stood up and had a pencil in his hand and planned to attack somebody, and they just shot him. Wow. And this is, like I say, all of a sudden the marshals come running through our courtroom with guns. This is a lot to experience as I'm getting ready to go to trial. I walked out of the federal courthouse. They locked it down. My husband was locked inside and with the gurney, with the ambulance. And then the news was there. I ended up doing an interview with the news, which everybody mad. They're like, what is she doing? Oh my goodness. And my lawyer called me and said, they are so mad at you, Portia. And I said, I'm mad at them too. And she goes, well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't work like that. She goes, be at court tomorrow morning. They want you there. And so I got there, and they just said, we're taking her into custody. They put me at the county jail, and it worked out that they basically held me. I had a full-on mental breakdown. I couldn't even speak. And they kept me for several months and transferred me to different facilities to get the mental evaluation, which I'm not well. This is not the ideal way to do a mental evaluation. Luckily, I ended up I started meditating and praying and getting myself, by the grace of God, I got a mental evaluation that said I was competent to stand trial. And then they shipped me back to Utah, and I ended up pleading guilty to get out of those conditions. And so that was this whole terrible experience. I was so traumatized by that. I had been left for 10 days in a cell. They took my clothes, which they often do when they're trying to keep you safe. But for me, being in the condition I was so vulnerable mentally. Mm-hmm. I was so scared, and I didn't understand any of it. I'd never been to jail before. And so when I got out, before I was sentenced, I had pretty bad PTSD. I couldn't sleep. I would shake. I was very scared. Luckily, by the time I went to prison, I was doing okay. And so even when they put me in the SHU and transferred me, I had some traumatic experiences already, which was good and bad. It was good because I was like, okay, I can do this. It was bad because it took me right back to the same place I'd been. Right. And it took me about half my sentence to finally work through the PTSD. I went and got a book. I started meditating and in a lot of prayer. And I had some support in there where the girls were like, you got to go back and soothe yourself through it. It's crazy what we do for each other in there. But yeah, it wasn't, it was really traumatic for me. And I had so many unusual experiences. For somebody that was convicted of real estate fraud, it's I wish I could show you a video of some of the things I've experienced. You'd be like, oh my gosh, cages and this and shackles and chains and isolation cells, and you just wouldn't believe it. And that was part of the reason I'm like, I have to write a book. I have to tell this story,
So do you think, writing those things down, those experiences down is kind of like your therapy and why you don't have really a lot of PTSD from it?
Yeah. I think what happened for me was I started, blogging even too. It was like my voice, and it made me feel safe. They can't do anything to me that I won't tell everyone that they did, because I had been through what I'd been through. I was like, you can't hurt me or I will tell on you, it was like my only protection, but it became a very cathartic way to connect with the outside world. And the end of my blogs, they became so much like it was all about the internal work that was going on. And I think the writing helped a lot. The other thing that helped a lot was service. Like I just started looking at people that had much more difficult circumstances and hearing their stories and realized like my stuff is hard, but they have so much harder. So I'm in a place of being able to offer support to people, and that always helps you get out of your own pain, you know?
Mm-hmm. And do you think like having those daily goals, like you said, and I believe one of your shorts said you had a job there in the prison, having those goals really kind of helps you march through the day?
Oh, so much. I have been writing my goals every single morning for 10 years, like since I got to prison, and people say, what goals could you write in prison? And I'm like, oh my heck, so many. Like today, I'm going to be a good friend. I'm going to be a good listener. I'm going to have honest, open, meaningful relationships with others. I will keep my word. Like they're internal character goals, you know, maybe I'll walk 10 miles today, but that's not even the important one. Like the important ones are those internal character goals. And I think it really, here's something interesting. I wrote a goal that I would read to my daughter every night. Now, obviously, I didn't have the time to do that. I couldn't do it in prison. And I didn't even tell my husband what my goals were. And then one day I'm talking to him on the phone. He said, I started reading to CJ every night. We've been reading together. And I was like, look at how God works. Like I write this goal.
Put it out there.
I can't do it, but we're connected as a family. And now it's coming to fruition a different way than I could have even thought, you know? So, yeah.
And that's an interesting point you bring up that just made me kind of think of with, you know, I'm a list maker myself, and I find that, you know, throughout the day, it's hard to sometimes check those things off because we end up getting so busy with those physical tasks that we're doing. But that's such an interesting thought to have of while you're there in that time that you have to yourself and with the other people that you're having the close connection with. You are able to reflect more, and you are able to put those internal goals down, the more important ones, rather than those lists that you're trying to check off of just physical, you know, I've got to do whatever, you know, physically here at the office. So it's a really interesting way to think about that and see how that comes to fruition just because you have the time, really.
Well, and I feel like people think prison's a waste of time, but I think it was the most important thing I ever did. Like it's all in how you see it. I mean, I'll never have the kind of time I had in prison, like you say, to work on the internal stuff because I'm so distracted by the external stuff. As painful as it is to have all those external things taken away, there are opportunities with that. And I did. When people say, well, what did you do in prison? I said, I prepared. Wow. You know, that's what I did. I did all the work. I built a foundation in my soul to come home and be who I was supposed to be, but I didn't know what it was going to be. I just did work and trusted God that he would show me the next step, you know. True
rehabilitation, really.
Yeah. I have people say, well, what program should we do? And I said, believe in the people, love the people, because they're strong and brave. And I've met so many of them that did that work, that are willing to change their lives. Trust them and believe in them, cheer them on, because they will come home amazing people if you do, you know.
Did you find in your time there and in your connection with these other ladies, did you find that there were a lot like you, or did you find that through your process, you either were able to learn from others that are there or inspire those that maybe didn't quite have what you have?
I think it's both. What I've learned is a few people can make a big difference. A few, like you could have a whole city and 10 people can be doing the right thing. And you can't believe how much it will start to spread. I wrote curriculum and taught classes, and everybody's like, nobody will come because they didn't get credit for them, like some time off their sentence or whatever. But the officer said, go ahead, Louder. You can offer it if they want to come. We filled the whole auditorium. Like people showed up, you know, they wanted it. And we did support groups in there, and everyone said, nobody will come. They did. They talked about what was hard for them. They were open to it. I think that there were people who inspired me, who were a strength to me, and then I was a strength to others. There were definitely some of us that were stronger. Like I consider myself a pretty strong person. I think that's a God thing. Like he gifted me that strength, right? And so I felt like I was a strong leader. I mean, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. I have those leadership skills, and but I did feel like the women wanted it. Like they were looking for it. There's some that aren't, that are just not, but I think there were a few of us that were really excited, and we kind of started working together, and it wasn't anything we had to do. It wasn't something we were mandated to do. It was something we chose to do, and it made a big difference. But there's people, like one of the girls in there, she wrote all kinds of classes for the gym and yoga classes, and would get everyone, like everyone was kind of in their lane and doing what they do best. Mm-hmm. Some people did artwork and would get everyone connected in that, or crochet. Like, I feel like we were all there helping each other in multiple different ways. So.
Now, the corrections officers in this process, were they encouraging, helpful, or apathetic, or did you have any relationship with them at all, or they were just kind of in the background noise?
In Oakland, I liked I don't have any issues with any COs. Some were really cool. Others were I'm happy if they would leave me alone, like mostly. But what I appreciated a lot when I got to Minnesota's the Midwest. I would come in the morning, and the officers would be reading their Bibles. I mean, they were just good guys. Like, they had families. They're just working hard. And it makes a difference. Like, if the officers just have their own stuff going on, right? Like, they're pretty solid people. I learned like recently I had a girl reach out to me from Waseek, and she goes, do you remember Mr. Dan? He was my kind of superior in the job that I had. And I said, yeah, he was great. Like, he never bothered me. And she said, yeah, I told him recently you're on social media, and he goes, yeah, Louder was great. She didn't cause us any trouble. I said, that's a compliment. That's what you want to hear. Like, that's what I felt like too. He didn't cause me any trouble. But I do remember him coming in, and he's like, hey, Louder, what can we do to do some classes to help these women? And I said, Mr. Dan, they come in so broken, it's hard because we as women, we've lost our children. We're so broken. And he goes, yeah, some things just take time. He's like, sometimes they just need the time. Like, and I appreciated that he even cared. So like, I had a lot of experiences with good officers, and not really too many with bad ones. If I thought that there was a problem, I just kept my distance. So, yeah.
Real quick question, going back to the bus ride that you had with the male prisoners as well, and your experiences now. I think you teach or you talk to different groups as well. Yeah. What is there a difference between male attitudes and female attitudes? Do you think females have, I don't want to say easier, but a different transition than men would? Men and mates?
Oh, I think it's harder for females in many ways. But here's what I found. There is an underlying desire to connect in a very human way, because people think men are gang members. They're violent. I have so many amazing friends that are men that have been gang involved, that have left the gang, that are out here doing amazing things. Everybody wants connection. They want to feel belonging, and a lot of the men grew up in families that were gang involved, and that's just what they were treated. They were basically taught to behave that way. But when they feel loved, seen, and supported, they will completely open up to that. I feel that women struggle more with codependency, and men struggle more with gang activity, right? And that's just the way it is. I think women, when they come out, are so codependent, they'll go to a halfway house and get in a relationship like that. And I understand it, because relationships were my first line addiction too, because it makes you feel good. So immediately you're trying to fill the emptiness with a relationship, and that will lead them right back to prison. Men don't, I think the women with kids coming home and trying to reestablish relationships with kids and financial support, and they have some pretty big barriers. But I think both can do it if they want it. If you put yourself first, like women don't struggle with that. They will find anyone else to take care of before they'll take care of themselves. Yeah. So, yeah.
Did, in the connections that you made, did you see a lot of inmates or prisoners that did recidivate, that there was a recidivism rate, or did?
I saw women, only when they came back to prison were people that used drugs. Like, I watched it. And so as soon as they came back, I'd like, did you use drugs? And one lady, she's like, all I used was weed. I go, you used drugs. I'm like, I just knew if I came home and never used drugs again, I would never go back to prison. And so I never have. Like, I'm, over 10 years sober, like, I'll never pick up a drug again. I'll die first. I just won't do it. But I just watched. I watched things that didn't work and things that did. I'm like, oh, Okay, so if you use drugs, you come back to prison. Okay, so if you sit in the TV room all day, you don't grow, you don't move forward. So I stayed out of the TV room. So if you go in the laundry room, you get in fights. So I won't go in the laundry room. Like I just watched what happened and avoided the things that didn't look like they were working for people.
Wow.
And definitely the drugs took people back to prison. That's the big thing. And relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the relationship and then the drugs is how it works. So
Okay.
Was there ever many instances of drugs in prison there where you were?
it was a pretty clean compound. I heard it got worse because what happens is they're going to always transfer people that are having problems on their compound. And Wasika ended up being the place that a lot of the other people were sending prisoners. So I heard that they were getting more drugs in, but I didn't see any. I never saw any drugs. And one time some girls had some cigarettes and I got mad about that because I was like, you're bringing heat on all of us if you're going to be doing that. You need to do that, not in here, because then the officers are going to come through and shake everybody down, you know? But not really. I didn't see too much of a problem. I know it exists. They say cell phones and all that. I didn't see it. So.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow. So, so as far as if people, I know you've got a lot going on with your books and your podcast. Let's talk a little bit about some of the cool and interesting things you've got going on in ways that people can connect to you and follow your show as well as read your books.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so I have 2 full-time jobs and I do a bunch of social media and I'm a recovery coach and I built a program of people that leave prison. So now we have 60 people in that program that virtually connect every day in groups and meetings. And but the best way, like on social media, I'm pretty good at trying to respond to comments, and they can also email me, and I have portialouder.com, which is my website. But I just launched this morning a podcast on YouTube, and I'm excited about that. And it'll be on all platforms.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, my husband's been a guest, my sister talking about how that affected her. I've got a bunch of people that I've done time with that are going to come in, that are going to
fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. And you can find that on YouTube or other platforms, looking up, it's Living Louder or Portia Louder. And then I'm on all the socials, and my books are on Amazon and Audible. I read them on Audible. So, yeah, you know, the interesting thing is my mom, when I was young, I didn't like the name Portia because it was so weird, I thought. But the fact is there's only one Portia Louder. So
That's right.
Exactly.
It was Mom. So, yeah. So yeah, I would love to hear from, I mean, if emailing me, right, is a good way to get a hold of me. I used to say, just send me a message on social media, but I now get like thousands of messages. So it's hard to go through them all. I try to, but they can email me at portialouder.com or portialouder@gmail.com too. So.
Wonderful. Well, first off, thank you so much for responding to us about coming on the show, because as soon as I saw your videos, I was like, okay, we've got to get her on the show. And so I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And I just have to encourage everyone to go and follow and subscribe to your YouTube channel, because you're always putting out great content. I love hearing you speak, because you speak so eloquently and so well about your experiences. And it's just so interesting
and honest, and
yes,
you know, honest, and you just don't, you're not pulling any punches. And I think that's what is resonating with you know, that's what resonated with us and your viewers. So you know, I'm sure it's difficult, but thank you for what you're doing and putting it out there.
You guys are like the nicest people. I need to come.
We'd love to have you.
We'd
love to have you in Tennessee.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. And we will be in touch. So
absolutely.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Sorry, I couldn't get my screen to pull on. That was our interview that we had with Miss Portia Louder. I can't encourage you all enough to go and check out her pages. I mean, her videos are so interesting. And what I really love are her short videos where she goes in and she talks about those day-to-day prison and jail experiences that she had. She answers questions that people send in, and they're just little short videos. She usually puts out a couple of videos a day. I'm going to actually pull up her screen right here. If you go on to PortiaLouder.com, and I've been sharing the information there inside of the chat room there. That way, people can go and easily get to those links. But if you go to PortiaLouder.com, it has a link to her YouTube page, which is where she puts all of her videos out. And she has some long videos. She's done a TED Talk. She has done multiple podcasts as well as speaking events. And then she's got links to her books on there. Her new book that she has, Born to be Brave. And then her original first book, Living Louder, that is written about her prison and her time there in federal prison. And we're really excited. We're actually going to, now you can purchase these books on Amazon, but we are going to offer the Living Louder book there in our Jailhouse gift shop. So we will hopefully have those in stock very soon, but we're really honored to be able to carry those books in our gift shop. She's also on TikTok if you're a TikTok user. And then you can go in and you can find ways, because I know her books, and she speaks at different locations. So you can, if you're interested, to donate so that the books can go to the prisons. Again, she just started her podcast, and she's interviewing a lot of people she served time with, as well as her family. So just a very fascinating and inspiring individual. And with as many responses as she gets to the messages and stuff that she's sending, we are very honored that she was able to respond to us and come on to the show. I also want to pull up her YouTube page right here. So that was her webpage. And then, of course, if you go to YouTube and you key in Portia Louder, you can subscribe to her page. If you go through, she's got her longer videos where she talks about, she's very raw, very honest, and very personal. And it has links to her podcast. It has links to other shows that she's been on. And then, like I said, my favorite are the shorts right there, where she goes in and she talks about some very interesting things that she encountered on a daily basis, and questions that I know us, as far as owners of a jail museum, questions that we might have about that daily life. She talks about her job that she had in prison. She talks about the commissary, food, lots of different things. I mean, she puts out several videos a day. So you won't be disappointed if you go and check out her page. I appreciate everyone that watched and commented. Again, this was a pre-recorded interview, so I apologize that we weren't able to answer some of the questions that were asked on here, but I tried to put different links and such, and go follow Portia's page. Maybe she's got some answers to those questions, or maybe if you reach out to her, she may be able to respond to you. So again, thank you all so much for watching tonight, and for commenting here in the chat room. So we like I said, we're wrapping up the summer here at the historic Scott County Jail with tours every Thursday through Sunday with our After Dark tours. We also, of course, we're open every Thursday through Monday for daytime tours. We hope that if you're traveling to the area and you're looking for something interesting and fun, that you will either come and do one of our daytime tours, or that you will come and experience the jail after dark, as well as historic rugby after dark. We're leading in, ending with the summer and leading in with some really cool festivals that are coming up. We'll be making announcements about those I think pretty much during the month of September and October, we pretty well have a festival every Saturday that we're going to be at. So we do still have some dates still available for investigations if you're wanting to come to the jail and historic rugby here during the fall. We have some of those, and we also have all of our After Dark tour excuse me, all of our After Dark tour dates up on the calendar as well. Like I said in the very beginning, Chris is there at Rugby doing a guided ghost hunt tonight with several ladies who were spending the night at Rugby. So unless there's anything else, we will be back next week. Unless a last minute tour or something comes up, we will be back next week. Follow our pages for more information of interesting events that are going on. You can visit historyhighwayshaunts.com or historicscottcojail.com, and then Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page and Historic Rugby After Dark Facebook page for more information on interesting things that are going on. So unless we see you before, we will see you next Thursday night here at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're looking to continue the conversation on forward, I will be live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook page and YouTube channel. And we're going to have Appalachian ghost tours on talking about some of the cool things that they've got going on tonight. So join me over there if you're looking for a little more paranormal content tonight. So anyways, take care, and we will see you all again next week. Goodbye.